We're going to tie a beadhead pheasant tail nymph this time. It's a little bit different to tie a soft hackle on a bead than it is without one, so I'm going to show you that. We're going to start out again with the Dairiki number 075, size 12. And a bead, which we're going to do an 1/8 inch bead. This is one of my favorite flies because what I've found with nymphing is that getting it deep is really important. So usually I'll do a 2 nymph setup. One that's something big and heavy to pull it down there, and another one that's smaller, like a zebra midge or something like that. Then we'll get a very natural drift, and often they will take this big fatty too. So I've got a red 6/0 thread, and to start the wrap you just hold it down on top, bring it under, and cross itself. And then I kind of hold the tag line out of the way, give it a half a dozen wraps or a dozen wraps, and then trim off the tag line. Normally with a soft hackle you want to tie on the hackle first, but with the beadhead it really kind of gets in the way, so I wait until the end. Bring it right back behind the barb, and then we're going to pull off some pheasant tail. And I usually like to do 10 strands or so. Just pull them out to the side so all the tips are even, and then I cut it off. I go about 1/3 of a shank length exposed behind the back, and I'll just hold that there. Start out with a real loose wrap, just give it 2 wraps, and then I'll reposition that so that it's right on the top of the hook, and tighten that up. And then a piece of copper wire. This is just copper ultra wire. Tie that on with a couple of wraps, maybe 3 wraps. And then bring the wraps all the way to the front. And then I'm going to let my thread hang at about 1/3 back from the shank. About there. And I'll start wrapping the pheasant tail around. I like to wrap in the same direction as I wrap my thread, and that helps it when you tie off the pheasant tail, it pulls it nice and tight. Being careful to cover up all the red thread. You don't have to worry about having a perfect taper on your body, on the body of the fly. It's really just representational. But if I want it to get a little thicker, I'll just kind of twist it as I wrap it. then I'll just hold it there by pinching it against the shank with my hand, and then I can tie it off by coming around it. Easy. Just pull all these at the top so that they're organized and easy to cut off. Give it lots of wraps, make it nice and strong, so not coming undone. And then I'll trim off that. And then we're going to just finish wrapping that down. And then we're going to bring the copper wire forward. And that we are counter wrapping in the opposite direction as the thread, and the opposite direction as the pheasant tail. And that way if it breaks, you won't end up with just a piece of pheasant tail sticking out in the middle of the fly. And then we just wrap over that. And then spin off the wire. Now is when you put on your soft hackle. So this is a partridge soft hackle. And this is a pretty big hook, so we can go with a bigger feather. Like so. And to prep the feather, we pull off all the fuzz. Take a little more, those are still a little long. And then take about half of that and preen it back, like so. You might want just a little bit more. There we go. So it looks like that. And then just like normal, we're going to tie it with the curve facing down. Keep it out of the way as much as possible. In this first wrap, I'm going to make real loose. And then tighten it up. Bring it back. Just to that same spot again, right there on a third. Tie it nice and tight. And then we can bring it back. See, that's what happens if you get too close to the bead. So we kind of keep it a little bit loose. And then come back to where I'm going to start the dubbing again at that third. And this stuff, we'll just trim it off. A little bit of gray hairs of your dubbing again, just a tiny, tiny pinch. Don't need much at all. And a little bit of green ice dubbing. Again, just a tiny bit. And we want that to be kind of on the outside. So I'll put it down at the bottom. You don't need much, just a tiny bit of flash. And then we'll go ahead and wrap that around. Build up the thorax. See, there's the flash on the end. And if you want to trim and pull off any of these extra threads, now's the time to do it. while you can reach them. And then we'll take our hackle plier. And the first thing I do is twist it a little bit so that they arc back, pull these feathers back. And then we start wrapping. You want to come on the inside of the thread and just kind of keep pulling the feathers back. We want it to be pretty sparse, so sometimes if you have too much, you can stop a little early, just trim it off, but I think this is about right. Yeah, there we go. And then we'll tie it off with the thread by coming on the inside of the hackle plier. Give it a little more thread there. You want to make sure that you capture all the feathers, because if you don't, it's really easy for the hackle to break, and then you just have a big string of feathers hanging out in your stream. Trout don't eat that. So that's pretty good. And we'll bring this up to the top and just trim that off. And then we can go ahead and do a whip finish. And I always like to do two. Trim off the thread. And pull out any of this extra dubbing. There we go. Good looking beadhead pheasant tail soft hackle.